Cerebi just recently announced that Regulation F will be returning as the official competitive rule set for online and in-person tournaments for Scarlet and Violet, which will go from December 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026. Since this is an existing format that's just returning as opposed to a new Regulation K, and with it being confirmed at the 2025 World Championships that Pokémon Champions will be the game that the 2026 World Championships will be played on, it's safe to say that Scarlet and Violet's VGC regulations are done. From late 2022 to early 2026, each regulation has had its own unique metagame due to the new Pokémon that were made legal and players adapting to those shifts. So in this video, I thought it would be fun to pick the best Pokémon from each regulation based off their performance in official tournaments, the Showdown ladder, and in-game ladder, discussing what made them so dominant. The Pokémon does not have to be newly legal to that format, although most of them are, and I'll also be enforcing the rule of no repeat picks, mainly because if I didn't do that, the entire list would just be Fluttermane and Incineroar. Reg A was the first format of Scarlet and Violet, just allowing non-legendary Pokémon in the regional decks. My pick here has to be Meowscarada. Looking back at it, it's kind of crazy that this was the most used Pokémon, but it had a lot of things going for it that made sense for it to be the top pick. Meowscarada had one of the highest speed stats in the format at 123, and it could afford going adamant since that still allowed it to outspeed anything with a 107 speed stat or lower like Garchomp. It most commonly used a Focus Sash to account for its below average defenses, and with very few relevant fake out users in the format, its Sash was able to stay intact most of the time. Since Protean got nerfed in this gen, it actually used Overgrow, which works well with Focus Sash because you need it to get to low HP for it to activate. Its Stab, Knockoff, and Sucker Punch hit Armor Rouge and Golden Go for super effective, and its Stab Flower Trick hit Garganacl and Dondozo for super effective, while also critting through Dondozo's double Omni Boost from Tatsugiri. With few meta-relevant fairy types and mons with higher speed than Meowscarada, it was put in quite a favorable position in Reg A, leading to it having a lot of success. Reg B added the 14 pre-DLC Paradox Pokémon, and I'm using my one Fluttermane pick here. It was just ridiculously dominant, being on about half of all teams in the format. I was thinking maybe I could make a case for Iron Hands here, so I could save my Fluttermane pick for a different reg, because there was one Reg B tournament where it had higher usage than Fluttermane, which was Orlando Regionals 2023, but I didn't think I could justify it. With 135 speed, it was faster than like 98% of the format, and that Ghost Fairy typing just fits so nicely on any team, with Ghost allowing for a Fake Out immunity, and Fairy allowing for an answer to the Dark types that would usually counter Ghost types. Fairy and Ghost are fantastic offensively, something that Fluttermane is able to abuse with Stab, Shadow Ball, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleam. It worked well with Great Tusk, another newly legal Paradox Mon that supplied physical ground stab to hit the mons that resisted Fluttermane's special fairy moves. You could use it with Choice Specs and go Terra Fairy for all-out damage, Life Orb if you want more flexibility in your move choices, Booster Energy if you value more consistent speed control, or Focus Sash if you want to stay alive longer and maybe set up with Calm Mind. Reg C added the 4 Treasures of Ruin, and none of them get my pick here, but instead Amoonguss. Terra was very generous to Amoonguss since water complements grass poison very well, basically allowing Amoonguss to resist or be neutral to whatever it's up against. Don't Terra and be resistant to Fluttermane's fairy moves and Iron Hands' fighting moves, or do Terra to resist Chi-Yu's fire moves or Chen Pao's ice moves. With a standard but very reliable set of Rage Powder, Spore, Pollen Puff, and Protect, Regenerator for healing, and the fact that very few meta-relevant grass mons were in the game at this point, since this was before Rillaboom, Whimsicott, and Ogerpon were allowed, Amoonguss absolutely thrived as a support mon. Pair it with Fluttermane, Iron Hands, Chen Pao, or whoever, and Amoonguss had them covered with Rage Powder redirection, Spore to help its allies set up or attack more safely, and Pollen Puff for healing. I don't think that Amoonguss has ever been bad, but it was especially good in this format, being the second most used at Day 1 of EUIC 2023 and the third most used at NAIC 2023. Reg D was the Pokémon Home update format, adding 96 new Pokémon. Out of those, it's pretty easily Urshifu Rapid Strike. Previously, Urshifu had only ever been legal in formats where you could Dynamax to get access to Max Guard, something that allowed you to protect from its contact moves that would normally hit through Protect. Without Dynamax though, and with Terra, Urshifu was unstoppable, and it's no surprise that it was on the 2023 Worlds winning team along with 12 out of the top 16 teams. Tornadus was its main partner that could supply speed control with Tailwind and boost its damage with manual rain setting, something that also benefited Tornadus since that made its Bleakwind storms perfectly accurate. Flying was also good for hitting Amoonguss, one of Urshifu's main counters, since it resists both water and fighting and typically holds the Rocky Helmet for chip damage when Urshifu contacts it. It didn't care about Intimidate, and it hit the main two Intimidate mons of the format, Arcanine and Landorus Therian, for super effective damage anyway. With Terra Water, Rain, and any damage boosting item like a Mystic Water, there are very few mons that can live a Surging Strikes from this thing. Reg E was the Teal Mask DLC format, adding 113 new Pokemon. This is my second pick that's not a newly legal Pokemon to the format, which is Iron Hands. Since its introduction in Reg B, Iron Hands has definitely been one of the top Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, and you could even make an argument for it being the top pick in Reg C or D. What really made it stand out here was how well it matched up against everything else, the fact that it was one of the only fake out users, and its insane bulk. You know that Terra Water, Rain boosted Mystic Water Surging Strikes I just mentioned with Urshifu? Iron Hands can live that with the right EV investment, and can one-shot Urshifu back with Wild Charge. It can also one-shot Tornadus with Wild Charge, Fluttermane with Heavy Slam, and possibly even Urshifu Single Strike with Drain Punch while healing back all that HP it loses when using Wild Charge. An Assault Vest easily patches up its below average special defense, and while its electric moves are walled by the ground-type Bears and Tinglu, Iron Hands can hit their normal and dark typing for super effective with fighting, so the main ground types it has to worry about were the Landorus forms. Reg F was the Indigo Disc DLC format, adding 135 new Pokemon, and Ogerpon Wellspring was especially good here. It has a lot of tools to work with that were great in this meta, such as a 100 base power, 100 accuracy, non-contact stab move, redirection with Follow Me, a better version of Protect with Spiky Shield, and a water immunity from its ability, which allowed it to wall Urshifu's Surging Strikes while being able to hit it for super effective with Horn Leech or Woodhammer. This contributed to an insane drop-off in Urshifu Rapid Strike's usage and success at Knoxville Regionals 2024, where Ogerpon Wellspring was at 66% usage on day 2, and Urshifu Rapid wasn't even in the top 12. As a grass type with Follow Me for redirection instead of Rage Powder, it was a counter to Amoonguss's Spore, and it was pretty neutral to everything else, with Incineroar's fire moves and Chenpao's ice moves being made neutral from water, and Rillaboom's grass moves and Raging Bolt's electric moves being made neutral from grass. Terra gave it a +1 special defense boost, which helped it survive hits from the ever-relevant special attacker Fluttermane. Reg G allowed for the use of one restricted legendary per team, of which there were 31 to choose from. For all restricted regs, I'm going to pick one non-restricted and one restricted, and the non-restricted pick goes to Rillaboom. Urshifu Rapid is still one of the best mons in the format, and let's be real, it would get the top pick if I allowed repeats, but Rillaboom matches up quite nicely against it, being able to break its focus sash with Fake Out if it has one, while also hitting it for stab super effective priority with Grassy Glide. It has higher speed than 3 of the most commonly used Fake Out mons of Incineroar, Iron Hands, and Smeargle. It has good enough bulk to live most neutral or super effective spread hits with the help of an Assault Vest. It also overrides Indeedee's Psychic Terrain and Miraidon's Electric Terrain, and can consistently pivot with U-Turn so that it can be sent out again and get another use of Fake Out and another activation of Grassy Surge. My restricted pick goes to Calyrex Ice because of its insane bulk and how well it allowed for Trick Room as an archetype. When only having one restricted mon, building a team around Trick Room is a lot easier since most other restricted mons are fast. This allows you to stack your team with slow mons like Ursaluna and Amoonguss, something that's a lot less flexible when you need to pick two restricted mons and have them both work in Trick Room. Calyrex Ice not only learns Trick Room itself, so you could have it set it up or an ally, but it also has single target ground coverage with high horsepower. Ice and ground damage will go a long way, and the right Terra type, mainly water, made Calyrex Ice very difficult to remove in Reg G. Reg H was the only format to subtract usable Pokemon, banning all legendary and paradox Pokemon. Now hear me out, I'm going with Goldengo, not Sneasler. Sneasler had a lot of usage during the first installment of Reg H, which was the 2025 season, being number 1 in usage at tournaments such as LAIC and Louisville, but Goldengo was not far behind. During the 2026 season, this has kind of flipped, with Goldengo being higher in usage like at Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, and Lille, with Sneasler not far behind. The reason I'm going with Goldengo though, is not only because it's good on its own, but as a Steel Ghost type, it hard-walled Sneasler's stab of poison and fighting, which forced Sneasler into running Throat Chop to have any chance of hitting Goldengo. It was also one of the only Pokemon in the format that had reliable spread damage with Make It Rain and setup with Nasty Plot, with Ursaluna Blood Moon being one of the only others since it had Hyper Voice and Calm Mind, although Calm Mind sets were quite rare. As the meta developed, players figured out more counterplay to Sneasler's Dire Claw like Vital Spirit Electabuzz, while Goldengo was much more consistent throughout, which is why it's getting my top pick for Reg H, although Sneasler would definitely be second. Reg I was back to restricted, allowing 2 on a team instead of 1. For my non-restricted pick, I'm going with Incineroar. Incineroar tends to thrive in high power level formats due to its unmatched utility and support, which is needed for its powerful restricted legendary allies to succeed in their game plan. You know the drill with Intimidate, Fake Out, Parting Shot, Knockoff, Will-O-Wisp, and all that good stuff. But what made Incineroar particularly good here was how well it matched up against the Calyrex riders due to its typing, hitting both of them for super effective, resisting or being immune to both of their stabs, and basically being the sole reason for Calyrex Ice needing to hold a clear amulet. For the restricted pick, I'm going with Miraidon. Like Rillaboom, it could pivot out consistently, but with Stab Volt Switch to help reset its terrain. One of Miraidon's main weaknesses though is its lack of non-committal spread damage, something that both horses have. I specify non-committal because it does have Discharge, Parabolic Charge, and Dazzling Gleam, but Discharge and Parabolic Charge hit your ally, so you'll need a ground type which limits your options, and Dazzling Gleam isn't stab, so most of the time you're gonna need to use up your Terra to do good damage. But if Miraidon isn't your only restricted mon, you could pair it with one that does have reliable spread damage like either of the horses, and just spam Electro Drifts with Miraidon. Since you can't have both Calyrexes on the same team, and it's probably not good to be too reliant on spread damage anyway because of Wide Guard, Miraidon was a great pick in double restricted. Lastly, Reg J added 17 mythical Pokemon, counting them as restricted. For my non-restricted pick, I'm going with Chien-Pao. This format really wasn't much different from Reg I because there were 2 viable mythicals, Arceus and Magearna, with the rest either being really gimmicky like Mew and Darkrai, or worse than existing restricted legendaries like Hoopa Unbound or Manaphy. I might just be biased since I had a lot of success on the latter with Chien-Pao Arceus Extreme Speed spam, but given that Chien-Pao was already really good in Reg I, since it matches up well against both horses, the fact that it was given a new ally for priority spam made it the best non-restricted Pokemon in the format that I haven't already chosen for another format. It threatened Sucker Punch on Calyrex Shadow, which oftentimes forced it to Terra, and speaking of that, it's getting my pick for the top restricted mon. I really wanted to go with Arceus, but I couldn't quite justify it, so I'm going with Calyrex Shadow, which could have been argued to be the top in Reg G or I as well, but again, I'm doing the rule of no repeats. As a ghost type, it's immune to Arceus' extreme speed, and while Arceus is immune to its Astral Barrages, Calyrex Shadow carries Psychic for stab as well. Astral Barrage spam is just so good and easy to slap on any team, and with the support of Zamazenta wide guarding opposing Astral Barrages, and fewer restricted legendaries being comfortable in Trick Room in general, it proved to be the superior horse in Reg J. And those are the best Pokemon from every VGC format of Scarlet and Violet. Let me know if you disagree with any of my picks and what Pokemon you would have picked instead. Anyway, if you want to support me and my channel, just leave a nice comment since I do read all comments. You can also become a member for 99 US cents a month to get a badge next to your name and early video access like all of these lovely people. If you want bonus content, check out my second channel, Extra Bell, where I post videos I've scrapped from the main channel, as well as more casual, unscripted videos. Likes are also one of the ways that YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves to be, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.